Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. Who am I? Well, I am your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, join us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And it is Thursday, which means it is time for the return of No Pants Thursday, and that's gotta mean that we're joined by two special people. One, we got Aaron Cummings, and one, we got Chris Carr. Aaron, how you doing?
I'm fantastic, and I'm so happy to be back. I missed you, and I missed Chris, and I missed all of the wonderful viewers out there.
And Chris Carr, good to have you back as well.
It's so good to be back. How are you guys?
It's
We're
been good. Everybody's happy and everybody's having a good time. And listen, guys, we do have a lot of stuff that we need to talk about here today. And before we get into our main topics, we'll talk about that in a second. And then later on in the second half of the show, we're going to be taking your live questions. Here's how you get in a live question. In the top of the description of this video, you're going to see a tip link. It's streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip, but the link is right there in the top of the description. If you want to send in a live question, go on down, use that link, and we'll get to that question a little bit later in the show. But before we get to anything else at all, guys, the first thing we're going to talk about off the top is this. Now, of course, one of the big Marvel MCU movies this year was Captain Marvel. It was another film for Disney this past year in 2019 that crossed the $1 billion mark. The $1 billion mark. After a lot of people say, oh, this movie's going to flop and blah, 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 blah. Cross the $1 billion mark. Impressive. But one of the interesting things was the fact that when both Comic-Con and D23 came and went, there was no discussion about when we might see Captain Marvel 2, which was interesting for a couple of reasons. Number one, because Kevin Feige said that Captain Marvel really was going to become the centerpiece of the MCU moving forward. Whether or not he's sticking that, we'll have to wait and see. And because it was a $1 billion film, you figure we would have heard about the next thing being in motion right away. Well, it is now indeed in the works, guys. They have now announced, Hollywood Reporter saying that Captain Marvel 2 is now in the works. They've brought on the same writer who's doing WandaVision, the upcoming Vision and Scarlet Witch series for Disney Plus, to pen the script. It's all just in the beginning stages right now. So, look, there's no shock or surprise here that they're doing a Captain Marvel 2. It made $1 billion. Kevin Feige said she was going to be one of the centerpieces of the MCU moving forward. Yada, yada. No big surprise. But it is kind of nice at this point to finally hear they're getting some movement on this. And it's also encouraging for WandaVision, because clearly they must like the work that this writer's been doing on WandaVision to bring her over to start working on Captain Marvel 2. So I think that's good news on two different fronts. So, Aaron, let's start with you. Number one, are you surprised that they waited this long to kind of put the wheels in motion for Captain Marvel? And do you think this is a good sign that they're staying in-house and bringing in the writer from WandaVision?
You know, as far as whether or not they should have taken their time to announce anything, I actually like that. I feel like it's a refreshing change of pace, that instead of rushing in and making all these announcements and people speculating, and I wonder if they're going to do this and have that, I like the idea that people who make these $1 billion decisions are actually weighing the pros and cons, seeing seeing what the optics look like, seeing what they're going to do, and then making an announcement. I'm not a big fan of the sudden announcement without any plan in place. And I like the fact that they already were able to say, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and this is who's involved in it. And yeah, keeping the writer. Do we know the name of the writer? I was just trying to look it up, but I couldn't. Is it Jack Schaefer? Or, Stanley is obviously not going to be working on the show. May he rest in peace.
The writer is Megan McDonnell.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So the only writer that's credited on IMDb is a lovely woman named Jacqueline, maybe. I think it's great that they're keeping it in-house. And the fact that we've now seen that a female-led superhero film, which for how long did we hear that was never going to make any money? You know, the fact that with the success of Wonder Woman and now the success of Captain Marvel, I'm really excited about what this means moving forward for not just for women in the world of the MCU, but just for characters in general, for the ideas of what will and won't work being blown out of the water and people going, oh, wow, well, every rule we had is made to be broken, apparently. So I'm excited about this.
Chris, what do you think about all this?
Oh, I'm so hyped. I'm really excited because of the WandaVision aspect of it all, because I've been so pumped about that series. And I love how weird it's supposed to be. So I'm hoping we get some more of that weirdness injected into Captain Marvel. Because I love Carol, but you can go kind of bananas with her storylines. You can do anything. I mean, not only is the sky the limit here, space is the limit, you guys. There's so much you can do with her. So to see them working in-house with people shows that they really like the team they're developing. And yeah, like you guys were saying, we knew we were going to get more Captain Marvel. It was something that was always going to come, so it's no surprise. But as we saw with how things happened with like Rotten Tomatoes leaks happening and all these weird rumors that started about the movie, it's kind of nice to just jump into production, not deal with any of the BS he said, she said, stuff where we can get kind of weird and gatekeepy with our fandoms. I'm excited to see what they do.
So the question here is, guys, what do you think about this? I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised that so many projects got announced ahead of it. So how does this fit into Kevin Feige's plan moving forward? What do you think about this? What do you think about them bringing over the WandaVision writer at this point? Jump down into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move in to an off-the-top number 2. And a second thing off the top is this. Speaking of comic book films, kind of venturing outside of the mainstream of DC and Marvel comics, we've had this Vin Diesel movie on the way, Bloodshot. Now, the trailer dropped not so long ago. A lot of us were really excited about the trailer. I thought this trailer was pretty solid. I mean, not the greatest trailer ever, but I thought it was a pretty damn solid trailer. One thing we had not heard, though, was what was the rating on this movie going to be? And from the looks of the trailer, some people thought there were, let's say that maybe for sure they would do an R rating, and things like that, particularly with some of the stuff that we saw in that trailer. Well, turns out, no, Bloodshot is indeed going to be a PG-13. And I'll tell you what, just by looking at this image here where Vin Diesel's getting his face blown off, this kind of reemphasizes something I've been saying for a long time, which is you can get away with a lot in a PG-13 movie. Because there were a number of people who thought just by looking, I saw conversations saying, well, look, from this trailer, obviously this movie's going to be rated R just from the stuff that's in the trailer. And clearly not. They have officially said it's going to be PG-13 for intense sequences of violence. And intense sequences of violence is things you can get away with today. So I'm really not surprised that this is going to be PG-13. You want to go after that sweet box office money. But again, I'm also not surprised because I believe there is a lot. Look, the needle has been moving and the bar has been moving in the whole area of what can you get away with in a PG-13 film. So I'm really not surprised by this at all. And I think it's probably the right move. Now, whether the movie's any good or not, we'll have to wait and see. Chris, when you saw the trailer for, Bloodshot, are you surprised at all that this thing ended up getting a PG-13?
A little yes, a little no. I'm really excited for this movie because Bloodshot's a crazy character, with all the nanites in his blood that give him this kind of healing factor. We kind of get this Weapon X meets Hardcore Henry vibe from the trailer, which I'm really
nice
pumped
comparison.
for. Right? I think that works. But I think you're right, though. You can do so much within a PG-13 rating. Do I kind of want to see something really over the top? Everyone's heads blowing up every 5 seconds when it comes to Bloodshot? Kinda. But I think you can still do a lot here, and I think you can really focus on the storytelling of it. A lot of people don't know about this character, so I think you do have to have a few parameters to kind of ensure that your action movie does well at the box office. And doing a R rating can limit it for somebody that we don't know as much about. We all know Deadpool now. Now let's get to know Bloodshot, and maybe the next movie can be a rated R.
Chris, when you look at Bloodshot, though, you've got a little bit of a background on the comic. Would you have thought prior to the trailer that this would have been a property that you could do PG-13 as opposed to R, or would you thought it would have had to have been R?
I would have thought it had to be R, honestly. I really would have thought so. And I mean, again, you can do a lot in there, but I think for someone that, especially when you think of a character with a healing factor and some of those things we saw in the trailer, the face coming back together, your initial thought when you see those on a splash page or when you just kind of visualize them yourself is, oh yeah, this is going to be brutal and bloody. This definitely has to be R. But like you were saying, we've really stretched what we can do in PG-13. So I think we can do this in a way that's not going to deter from the actual source material.
Aaron, how do you see this?
Well, I have to say, I'm actually quite disappointed about this rating because it means that once again, we will not get to see Vin Diesel's butt crack. Because, you put a butt crack in there and all of a sudden it's rated R. You can blow as many people's faces off as you want to, but you show that butt crack or a little nip slip and you're definitely going to be rated R. Definitely. No, having worked with Vin Diesel before, and John, you have had that infamous conversation, of course, where he was praising your work, which I still am super geeked out about. He's a smart guy. Vin is he's not just the actor that shows up on set. He is the executive producer of pretty much every project that he's involved in. He definitely has his fingers, and being a huge comic book and video game nerd himself, he was probably so intimately familiar with the source material that he was the one who pushed this to actually, he's probably the reason it got made. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But on top of that, he's going to know his audience the best. And he understands exactly what Chris was saying, which is, hey, a lot of people are not familiar with this. I love this. Chris Carr loves this. But let's introduce this character in a way that we're going to really not only get a fan base for the comic book, but also let's think about the fact that Vin Diesel he's not 30 years old. He's looking at that next generation of fans, the people who are not fans of the Fast and the Furious yet, who think about that as like their dad's, movie franchise. Vin's like, hey man, I want to capitalize on these younger viewers so that they can grow up being Vin Diesel fans as well, and he can prolong his own career. He's very, very smart that way. Brilliant business person, and I'm very excited for this.
So the question here, guys, is what do you make of the fact that Bloodshot is going to end up being a PG-13? Do you agree with us? Honestly, I think PG-13 is perfectly fine for it when you understand how much violence you can get away with in a movie like this. You just can't do a lot of sex stuff, whatever. Or are you like, you know what? I think if they had that rated R, that R rating, they could have actually pushed the limits a little bit more. How are you feeling about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. One last thing off the top here, guys, that I want to talk about, and that's this. There is a new movie coming out this weekend, or there's a couple of wide release movies coming out this weekend. One is The Turning with Mackenzie Davis, little horror film, and Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things is in there as well. But the one I've been really quite looking forward to is The Gentleman. Matthew McConaughey, Charlie Hunnam, Colin Farrell, Hugh Grant, why am I forgetting the name of the dude from Crazy Rich Asians? Henry Golding.
Henry Golding.
Great cast. But the thing that really got me excited about it was you had Guy Ritchie directing it. And it looked like a return to form for Guy Ritchie, to his old Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and more importantly, Snatch days, because I love those movies. I absolutely adore those movies, particularly Snatch. Yes, Campea said I love Snatch. So I love that movie desperately and dearly. And I really I like what Guy Ritchie has done on Sherlock Holmes. I like very much what Guy Ritchie did with Aladdin. You guys know that I'm actually quite a big fan of the new Aladdin movie that he did, which I always thought was really a really strange choice. Even though I'm a Guy Ritchie fan, I always kind of thought it was a bit of a strange choice that you got Guy Ritchie directing Aladdin, but that's fine. So here comes The Gentleman. And I got to tell you, I was not disappointed in the least. This movie, guys, is wonderful. Now, take what I'm saying with the slight grain of salt that I am somebody who am really predisposed to like Lock, Stock, and Snatch. If you're somebody who didn't enjoy the movie Snatch or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, then this is probably not going to be a movie for you. Okay, then you're probably not going to enjoy this one. But as somebody who really did enjoy those films, oh my God, this felt like Guy Ritchie at full Guy Ritchie potential. Like, I'm not going to say it's as good as his film Snatch, but I liked it even more than Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. And that's saying a lot. I thought the performances were great. Matthew McConaughey was wonderful. Charlie Hunnam, I don't think I've ever enjoyed Charlie Hunnam in a movie more. Because Charlie Hunnam, despite being, great in Sons of Anarchy, being Jax Teller, he's been a little iffy for me in his feature films. I really think he found his stride working with Guy Ritchie, though. Hugh Grant, I haven't liked Hugh Grant this much in a lot of years. Henry Golding as the bad guy, or at least one of the bad guys, So freaking good. And then Michelle Dockery from Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey.
Yeah, Downtown Abbey. From Downtown Abbey. So good. I mean, it's like you've never seen her before. This is her, guys, as you never would have even thought you would ever see her before. She is such a riveting badass in this movie. I totally loved it. Look, there are going to be some things about this movie that are going to rub certain people the wrong way. There's a lot of language. There's a lot of language. There's a lot of violence. But it's a Guy Ritchie movie. Of course, there's going to be a lot of violence. I think it might have set the Guinness Book of World Record for the most uses of the C word in one movie.
What's that word?
I can't remember. Canadian, I think. I think Canadian is the C word.
See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday. But I am telling you, when they would use it, the audience was just in stitches. Now, look, there are going to be, again, the last time I checked, this movie was sitting at a 77%, which means not everybody loves it, and that's fine. And again, you got to take it with a grain of salt that I am predisposed to these types of movies because I really do like Lock, Stock, and Snatch. But listen, if you enjoy those movies at all, this is a movie you've got to check out. It's got this totally frenetic pace to it. The dialogue, one of the great things about Guy Ritchie movies and these types of films is the snappy, quick, high-paced dialogue that just runs through the film. So freaking good. So yeah, listen, it's my favorite film of 2020 so far. I think it's safe to say so far The Gentleman is in the lead for me for the next Academy Awards to win Best Picture. I'm sure it won't be there by the time we get to the end of 2020, but as for right now, it's absolutely remarkable. If you have not seen it, get out and see it. Opens this weekend everywhere. And then let me know what you guys think. And listen, there have been a lot of advanced screenings, and this movie has opened in some other territories already. If you've seen The Gentleman, what did you think about it? Jump on down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay. With that stuff down and out of the way, guys, let's now move on to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here in the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys come up with them by going anytime over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here as one of the main topics on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Nick Anderson, who writes, I saw that a new Silence of the Lambs series is coming. My anticipation dropped once I saw that Alex Kurtzman was attached. Previous movies like Cowboys and Aliens, Transformers 1 and 2. I actually really like Transformers 1. It's the only Transformers movie I like besides Bumblebee, but there you go. Amazing Spider-Man 2 and The Mummy don't inspire much confidence. Your thoughts on Kurtzman and this upcoming series. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, listen, Alex Kurtzman has been a very prolific creator, from being a producer, a writer. He's done some directing. He's been incredibly active, very prolific. He's put out a lot of stuff. And as such, there are a number of things he's done that, let's be honest, haven't been any good. There's a number of things he has done that have not been any good. However, I would caution against just cherry picking out certain things and ignoring the others. Because at the same time, while he has produced and written a number of those not so good projects, he's also produced and written a number of really good projects all at the same time. Like I said, I personally liked the first Transformers. That me, but he worked on The Proposal, which is fabulous. He worked on, now this will be divisive among people, I think Star Trek Discovery is great. And he's worked on Star Trek Discovery. He's, of course, got Picard coming out that everybody's really excited about. He was, of course, one of the guys on Alias, and I loved Alias. He was one of the guys on Fringe. Everybody loves Fringe. He was one of the lead guys on Limitless. Aaron, you've got a little bit of a connection to that.
Yes,
of course, Aaron's husband, Tom, was one of the stars of Limitless. And other than the final season, I love Sleepy Hollow. I thought Sleepy Hollow, outside of the final season, I thought it was great. So, does Alex Kurtzman have some not so shining moments on his resume? Absolutely he does, 100%. There's no denying it. But I also think you have to resist the temptation to exclusively look at those negative things at the expense of looking at a lot of the positive things that he's done. And I think at the end of the day, when I see his overall resume, I actually quite like the work that he's put out. Again, a couple things I really haven't enjoyed, but a lot of stuff that he really has. And to have his involvement, a guy like him involved in this Clarice show that they're doing, which is, of course, a spinoff of Hannibal. Not Hannibal, the show we've had recently with Mickelson, but rather, the old Hannibal movies, is a spinoff of that. I think is actually quite positive and quite good. Aaron, we hear about this movie or this new series that they're working on, this Clarice series that they're working on. Do you think there's any reason to be less optimistic or whatever because Alex Kurtzman is attached? You think maybe there's reason to be more optimistic, less? It doesn't really matter. How do you feel about it?
Well, first of all, I think the thing that we need to start with is where is this show going to live? If this show was going to live on, say, I don't know, on Netflix, it would be a certain type of show. If it was going to live on AMC, it would be a different type of show. And I think from that perspective, from those networks, we might look at it and go, ooh, I don't really know if Alex Kurtzman is the right fit. But it's going to live on CBS. And let's face it, whether you like network television or you think network TV is dead and gone and only your grandparents watch it, the reality is that is the place where you go if you want to make a procedural. And Alex Kurtzman, from the shows that you have already described, I mean, not only did he work on these shows, he created Fringe. He was the creator of Sleepy Hollow, the creator of Discovery. He developed Hawaii Five-0, which is still on the air because people watch it. You guys might hate it. You might think that it's just like the same drivel every episode. But there are a lot of people in the millions who are watching it and they are loving it and they are keeping it on the air. So when you say, and let's face it, Clarice is going to be a procedural. It is going to be 1 year after we left her, after Hannibal Lecter is like off on vacation, eating someone for dinner. So it'll be a early 30s blonde woman who is solving crimes that have to do with homicide and sexual predators. So it's going to be in the vein of a Law & Order SVU, but with the CBS sort of signature to it. So I think that we can look more at not necessarily Alex Kurtzman, but more about, okay, what is CBS going to do with this show? And they're going to make it into a procedural in the same way that they took, I'm totally blanking, for Elementary, Sherlock Holmes. In the same way they took Sherlock Holmes and they developed it into Elementary, which is still on the air and has been for 8 years now. That's what they do. So I'm not necessarily worried about what Alex Kurtzman has done in the theatrical space. I'm more interested to see what they're going to do for the people who love CBS procedurals in that space.
What do you think about all this, Chris?
I mean, I'm with you guys on, I really liked the writing for the first 2 seasons of Sleepy Hollow. Sorry, my dog's coughing right next to me, y'all. Sorry. I really enjoyed that writing. I think if we are going to look at some of Alex's flaws here, I think that maybe he doesn't always know how to finish a series. And it's really nice to know how you kind of want to end things going into things. I really enjoy British television because it's we're going to do this for 3 seasons and then we're done kind of thing. I like a good solid ending, not screwing up my love for a show. I like when we don't take a weird turn like Sleepy Hollow and go, what is this show now? What am I watching? I'm done. So I'm really hoping that we just kind of focus on what kind of show this is going to be. And that should be something that's a bit more feasible since we do have this kind of long-standing mythology that goes with Silence of the Lambs. There's a blueprint there that you can work with. So I'm hoping we just do something that has a clear-cut direction from day one, and that they know what they want to do with Clarice. And Aaron, I'm so glad that you brought up this, young, blonde woman who, has done procedural kind of work, because I don't know, I've seen this one girl on TV a whole bunch lately. Look at Erin Cummings, you guys. Make her be Clarice. That'd be great.
She's so totally available. Yeah. And I've worked with CBS. I love them. And I also thank you for the people that are commenting. Yes, Elementary is no longer with us. However, they had an amazing run and did very well for themselves.
All right. The question here then is, guys, how do you feel about, first of all, look, this show might be absolutely terrible. It could be completely awful. But the question is, does it increase your excitement, decrease your excitement, or quite honestly not do anything to know that Alex Kurtzman is one of the guys attached? I don't think there's anything wrong with it, actually. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Could be good, could be bad. We'll have to wait and see. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets sent in to us by Steve Calderon, who writes, I really loved Ford v Ferrari last year. It's one of my favorite movies of 2019. I'm happy it got a Best Picture nomination. Me too. I love that movie. What do you think of Matt Damon and director James Mangold teaming up again for the crime drama The Force at 20th Century Studios? Could this be a future Oscar contender? All right, thanks a lot for that. Now, of course, James Mangold, who is on a streak. He did Logan, which I thought was the best film of the year a couple of years ago. He did Ford v Ferrari, which is obviously nominated for Best Picture this year. And we announced like over a year ago that he was working on an adaptation of the novel The Force. And now it's been announced that Matt Damon, who just worked with him on Ford v Ferrari, is going to be joining him on that. For those of you who don't know anything about The Force, here's what it is. No, it's not a Star Wars movie. Matt Damon is attached to play Denny Malone, a New York Police Department detective who runs an elite crime fighting squad, but bends the law so often that he loses the line between good and evil and becomes ensnared in a pending corruption scandal. To stop the city's long simmering racial tensions from exploding, he must reconcile the idealistic guardian he still views himself to be with the corrupt cop that he has become. He's under siege from all sides. Harlem drug gangs, the mob he's in bed with, the brother cops he's about to destroy, the mayor's office who fears what he knows, who he can implicate, the federal investigators who want to put him behind bars. So it sounds to me like one of these really sharp, gritty kind of cop dramas. And I'll tell you what, the gritty cop drama is something that used to be around a lot. And quite frankly, something we haven't seen a whole ton of a lot in the last number of years. Look, one of my all-time favorite movies is this gritty Asian cop film called Infernal Affairs, which was the basis of what Marty Scorsese then used to make his movie The Departed. The Departed is actually a remake of Infernal Affairs. And The Force kind of sounds a little bit like a callback to something like that. And if you're going to compare it to television, it almost kind of sounds like, guys, a comparison to that TV show The Shield, which has been off air for a long time now. But it's kind of got a little bit of the Shield feel to it, which is nothing but good news to me because I love shows like that, The Wire, all that kind of stuff. So look, if you're just going to look at the black and white facts of this, James Mangold directing on the role that he's on. Matt Damon, just being Matt Damon, having just worked with James Mangold in a movie that's nominated for Best Picture, and this sort of source material, this sounds like nothing but good news to me. And yeah, it could theoretically be an Oscar contender, but then again, the next SpongeBob movie could theoretically be an Oscar contender, I suppose. But I mean, this thing seems like it's got a pretty good chance. Aaron, you heard about this. You see who's attached to it. Where's your enthusiasm level for a project like this?
First of all, I am not ready to start talking about Oscar contenders for 2020. Can we please just get through this award season? We're almost there. We're so close. I don't want to start talking about that yet. Let's just enjoy a movie for the sake of enjoying a movie. My first impulse about this, I feel about cop movies the same way that I feel about war movies. And I'm like, we've seen them all 1,000 times. It's essentially the same white guy. He's like got this issue, and oh my god, and they're all crooked. It's the same thing. But I was proven wrong about my feelings on war movies with 1917. So I have realized that I should stop jumping to conclusions and painting every movie with the same brush. So I'm going to give this a chance. I was a little concerned when I saw that the first draft was written by David Mamet and that it was then rewritten by someone else, because I was like, who rewrites David Mamet? But then I saw that the rewrite.
I'm glad you said, because I thought you were trying to say that you were concerned that Mamet wrote it. Like, what's wrong with Mamet writing it?
No, he wrote the first draft, and I was like, yes, first draft, done. David Mamet, it's not going to get any better than that. And then I was like, Scott Frank, who's that? And I looked him up, and I went, oh, yes, Scott Frank definitely is someone that he can do whatever he wants. He is, as you were mentioning, has written some incredible projects. And also, I am doing Masterclass right now. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of this app Masterclass, but you can just look it up. And the Jodie Foster Masterclass, Scott Frank actually is her writer guest on the show. So if you want to learn more about Scott Frank, I suggest Jodie Foster's Masterclass. So given that, I'm really excited about this. I love the pairing of Matt Damon and James Mangold. Clearly, when you have a winning combination, you keep with it. In the same way that Robert De Niro and Scorsese continue to work together. I love that pairing, and I'm excited to just watch the movie without any pretense of Oscar anything.
What do you think about all this, Chris?
Well, I mean, the question is, does this seem like something that's going to have Oscar buzz? Yeah, it's a paint by numbers of Oscar buzz right now, Mangold, star power with Damon, this storyline. It's all going to come down to execution, which, so far we know that all of these different counterpoints can deliver on that thing. So we've got all these different working parts. We should have a really great piece there. That being said, we can't really talk about a movie's worth until we see the movie. So hopefully everything comes together, and James Mangold, I mean, as of right now, has done nothing wrong ever and can do whatever he wants for the rest of his life because Logan was perfect. Gosh, that movie was robbed. Oh, it makes me so mad every time I think about it. But we really can't, speculate on a movie until there's a movie.
All right, guys, question is, what do you think about the sounds of the Force? From the synopsis of it, we got James Mangold attached, Matt Damon attached. Maybe you think it does sound like another paint by numbers cop thing. Maybe, like me, you feel like it's a little bit exciting. How are you feeling about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Walter C., who writes, "Hey, John. Sorry, Rob. Rob's not here today, obviously. I'm with John on Star Trek Discovery. It is one of my favorite shows on TV. I love it too. Anyway, just wondering if you guys saw that report that Marvel's Shang-Chi is looking at casting Discovery's Michelle Yeoh for the film. To me, this would be the best possible news in the world since she is simply one of the most remarkable actresses in the business. How would you feel about Yeoh joining the cast of Shang-Chi?" All right, thanks a lot for sending in. And yes, one of the things we're all looking forward to, Marvel's new film. Everybody got excited about it when they announced it. I think there's a lot of potential there, Mandarin and everything else. But wow, the possibility of Michelle Yeoh joining this thing, to me, is nothing short of remarkable. Now, some of you might be scratching your heads like, wait a minute, is Michelle Yeoh already in the MCU? Well, technically, yes. As is pointed out by our friends over at Cinema Blend, of course, if you've been paying attention, you know that this wouldn't be Michelle Yeoh's first appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe if she does join Shang-Chi. The actress appeared in a cameo during the funeral of Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 as Aletta Orgord. While nothing has been confirmed, it appears that Yeoh would not be reprising that role in Shang-Chi, but would instead be playing somebody brand new. Because that is one of the first things, and very observant. A lot of people say, wait a minute. She's already in the MCU. She's actually playing one of the characters from Guardians of the Galaxy. She's like, no, I really don't. Now, look, it's not official that she's not playing the same character from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I think it just makes common sense that she's not going to be playing the same character. She's going to be playing somebody different. Who? No idea yet. But let's just stick on the basic ideas of this. What would I think about a Michelle Yeoh joining? Well, it's like asking, how would I feel about Daniel Day-Lewis joining a comic book movie? I'm not saying Michelle Yeoh is the greatest actress of all time, but she is one of the greats that we have working today. I can watch Michelle Yeoh in anything. She can do action, she can do dramatic, she can do comedy, she can do, like, she was even great in Crazy Rich Asians as the mom. I thought she was terrific in that. I love her on Star Trek Discovery. This woman, to me, can do no wrong. And one of the things I always say about this stuff, guys, is it is never a mistake to add talent. She's got talent coming out of her ears. I think this would be absolutely fantastic if they lock this thing down and make it 100% official. So if they do, guys, sign me up. I'm all in. Chris, what do you think about the notion that maybe we could get a Michelle Yeoh joining a project like this?
Oh my God, gimme, please. I'm so excited about it. I love Michelle Yeoh. I got introduced to her in Tomorrow Never Dies, and I fell in love with her. I thought she was so great, even though that movie wasn't like the best Bond movie. I just adore her. I think she's incredibly talented. I think everything she does is so wonderful. She's this great mix of beauty and brains and brawn, and I think she can just bring a lot to the table. I can't wait to see what they do with her.
Aaron, what about you?
I'm excited. I don't know if everybody knows this. I'm sure that most people, a lot of the big Michelle Yeoh fans out there are already aware, but she is actually the only actress that Jackie Chan let do her own stunts because she was she has sustained
I didn't know that.
considerable. Yeah, she's sustained a considerable number of injuries. She actually was a professional dancer back in the day, and she was also Miss Malaysia.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. But using her dance background, she incorporated that into being able to do a lot of the fight scenes because there's a lot of similarities there. So I thought that was really interesting and pretty cool and just kind of shows her commitment to her craft of being able to because to be able to impress Jackie Chan in stunts and fight scenes, I think that says a considerable amount. I also loved her in Crazy Rich Asians. I thought from that very opening scene where she comes in and just buys the hotel, she's just got HBIC written all over her. And I love the power that she commands just the moment that she walks on screen. I'm very excited. And you're absolutely right. The addition of talent, or you can replace that with just the addition of Michelle Yeoh, is never a bad decision.
Question is, guys, what would you think about this? Maybe look, I've already read that there are some people who don't want Marvel kind of doubling up on actors. Like, you love Michelle Yeoh, but they don't want her doubling up. I don't really see there being any problem here with this. How do you guys see it? Jump on down to the comments section below and let me know what you guys think. All right. With that down, let's move on to our fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Geeky Gator, who writes, "Hey, John and gang. So apparently Netflix is developing an animated Witcher movie in an anime style. This movie also has the live action show's showrunner on board and one of the writers by us. The showrunner and one of the key writers as well is on board for the animated film. Do you think we will see the same cast do voiceovers? And do you think this is a good idea, or will it dilute the franchise name?" All right, thanks a lot for that. And listen, there were some rumors rumbling around, guys, that there could be a Witcher animated movie coming out before season 2 comes out. And it sounded odd, but it has officially been confirmed, and confirmed by the showrunner herself. As she writes, "It's a big day here in the Witcher world, and I've been keeping this one a secret for over a year." And of course, she mentions that while retweeting from NX on Netflix, writes, "The rumors are true. A new Witcher story is in the works. The anime film, The Witcher, Nightmare of the Wolf, will take us back to a new threat facing the continent, brought to you by the Witcher team, of course, the showrunner and one of the writers, and Studio Mir in the studio behind The Legend of Korra." First off, do I think they will get back the voice actors? Yeah, I mean, why not? Why not? And look, let's be honest here. They don't need the voice actors for 4 months of production, right? They won't need the voice. You don't have to book out Henry Cavill for 3 months to come in and do the voice work. So that shouldn't be the most difficult thing to work that schedule out. It shouldn't be the hardest thing in the world. So I don't see why you would have the showrunner of The Witcher and one of the writers come in. You're clearly taking this very seriously, so you'll probably get in the actual original voice cast. But then again, we don't know how much of that original voice cast is actually going to be in this anime thing. As a matter of fact, we don't even have any idea what the timeline on this is. Because I thought at first, when I heard about this, I thought, well, what they're probably going to be doing is they're probably going to be doing what happens between the events of the end of season 1 and a little bit of stuff to lead up to the beginning of season 2. That's what I first thought. But after reading this description, it doesn't sound like that's the direction they're going at all. So I can only assume this is going to be a prequel story. Again, nothing official. That's just me and my basic fan speculation. I'm just guessing here it's going to be a bit of a prequel story. But I'll tell you what. I loved Witcher. There's a lot of lore in Witcher. Do I think doing one animated movie in between seasons is going to dilute the product? Not necessarily, no. I mean, if they started doing 5 Witcher animated movies every single year in between seasons, yeah, the fear of that starts to become a real thing. But right now, I don't think so. I think it could be perfectly fine. Now, look, the anime may suck. It may be terrible. We may hate it and whatever, and that's fine. We'll still have season 2, the live action season 2 to look forward to. So I see this to be very low risk, nothing but upside potential, because even if it's terrible, I don't think it hurts the show. That's the thing. That's why I think there's very low risk here. So if you can do it and mitigate the risk, why not? Why the hell not? Chris, you're hearing about this. You're seeing the studios that are involved. I don't even know if I've asked you if you even like The Witcher or not, but what do you feel about this whole idea of them doing an animated Witcher series? Or movie, I should say.
Witcher. Oh man, I loved it so much. I got to do a review on it because I remember you were kind of mad at me because I got screeners for the first 5 episodes.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. You saw it before me. That's right.
Anyone where it was like, they know my IP. I can't do anything. I thought it was such a great show. And here's the thing, guys, is Witcher has already been able to be successful on a multitude of different mediums. So we've got, 7 books? We have comic books as well. We have a very successful video game franchise. Heck, there are even card games and things that go with this guy. So to have an anime, I think, is a great idea. And like you're saying, low risk with the potential of high reward here, especially if we do something kind of in the vein of Castlevania, which is another Netflix thing that I think everyone should be watching. It's so great. It's bloody. It's brutal. I think you can do a lot here if you bring the voice cast in, which I assume they will. The regular cast in to do the voiceover work. I think that's great. Kind of like when we got the Constantine cartoon with Matt Ryan still in there. It just really adds to the whole show, and it kind of makes everything have this nice synergy to it. And I think bringing on the Korra team is a really great thing as well. And I see y'all in the comments, Korra's not really an anime. Calm down. All right? Just take a deep breath. Anime style, guys. And we've got people who do excellent storytelling in a visual forum. So I think we can all agree that that's a good thing as well. Guys, you got to stop. Sorry, my dogs. I think that this is going to be a fantastic thing. And y'all know that I love anime so much that I could not be more excited about this. I'm pumped.
Aaron, I don't know if I've ever had a chance to ask you if you've even had a chance to watch. Well, I mean, look, I understand that Henry Cavill is your unspoken boyfriend that he doesn't realize. But have you had a chance to watch Witcher? Because I don't think I've had a chance to ask you. Have you watched Witcher?
I haven't. You know what? There's so much that is on right now, and I'm still trying to catch up. It's not high priority for me, but I'm intrigued by it. I'll say this. I'm not interested, but I'm intrigued. And I feel like it's one of those things where I'll decide, okay, fine, I'll watch an episode. And like Mindhunter, all of a sudden I'm going to be sucked into this Witcher vortex and I'm not going to be able to leave my house for 2 days. I have a feeling that that's what's going to happen. But I agree. I think that if there's something that people are excited about, and there's a way to make it, to extend the story without necessarily breaking from the canon of it, and you can have the animated version that's going to accompany the show, I think that's wonderful. In the same way that before we had streaming, but kind of when we were getting to that place, you saw all these little webisodes that were based off of the main show. You know, you'd have like from The Office or whatever, you would have a couple of the supporting characters having their own little web series that were additions to the show. And I think that doing an animated series to be to count with the show is a great idea. And absolutely, they should have the actors who play the live action do the voiceovers. That's just the smart thing to do. And so with all this Witcher talk, I guess maybe this will be the weekend that I just have to hunker down and binge it.
It's only 8 episodes. And then plus you'll get all of the Witcher memes. So
yeah,
really
then all of a sudden you'll get them all.
Oh, there's memes?
Yeah.
Now, not a lot of people know that Aaron has been seeing Henry Cavill. Of course, she's been doing so from the bushes outside of his house, but, you know, it is what it is. Question is, guys, how do you feel about the idea of a Witcher animated movie before season 2? Do you fear that it might dilute the property a little bit? Do you think it's a great idea? Do you feel like I do where, hey, maybe it'll be good, maybe it'll be bad, but I don't really see any downside to it, even if it's bad? How do you feel about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to the 5th and final main topic today. And our 5th and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Vasal Y, who writes, "Hey, John, help me understand something. You don't like the prequels. You're not a big fan of Clone Wars. You really don't like Rise of Skywalker. And even though you like the other Disney Star Wars movies, you always say they rank well below the original trilogy. Despite all of that, you always seem so positive and optimistic when it comes to Star Wars. considering we haven't had anything truly great from Star Wars since The Return of the Jedi, why are you still so optimistic about it? All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, you're right. Look, there are people out there that I call pseudo fans. And it's not just of Star Wars, it's of any property. And what the definition of a pseudo fan to me is this: people who see themselves as true fans and believe that being a fan means you have to blindly love everything that thing does. And that's just not reality. And that's not real fandom. That's not real fandom at all. I mean, if you just naturally do love everything that a property does, hey, more power to you. That's great. But this notion that you're supposed to love, if you say you're a fan of something, you got to love everything that something does. Oh, that's just ignorant. That's just ignorant. Like, I know my wife loves me, not because she thinks everything about me is perfect, but because she recognizes the things in me that are far from perfect and loves me anyway. That's love, ladies and gentlemen, when she recognizes the imperfections in me and loves me anyway. She doesn't pretend like the imperfections in me aren't there. She doesn't pretend like the imperfections in me don't exist. She knows they're there. She acknowledges that they're there, and she loves me anyway. There's a lesson to be learned there about fandom. It's true of sports fandom. I often talk about how movie fandom is a little bit younger than sports fandom. But like, I am a lifelong, I don't talk about hockey a lot because I know a lot of you guys don't watch hockey, but I am a bleed blue and white Toronto Maple Leafs fan. The Toronto Maple Leafs suck. All right? They have almost my entire fucking life. They have sucked. The entire time that my feet have walked this earth, the Toronto Maple Leafs have never even not won the Stanley Cup. They've never even been to the Stanley Cup the entire time that I've been alive on this earth. And for the vast majority of the years that I've been alive on this earth, the Toronto Maple Leafs don't even make the playoffs. But I love the Toronto Maple Leafs. But that doesn't mean I don't acknowledge that there are dumb things they have done. They have been terrible teams sometimes, but even when they're terrible, I love them. Because that's my team, and I love them, but it doesn't mean I ignore the imperfections. I love, in more than anything else in all of entertainment, I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars more than anything else in all of entertainment. But that doesn't mean, as a diehard, till the day I die, major Star Wars fan, that doesn't mean that I'm going to pretend to like things that I don't like. Did I want to like The Rise of Skywalker? Of course I did. But I didn't think it was very good. Many of you did, and that's great. I celebrate that, but it didn't work for me. I don't like the prequels. I think they're dumpster fires. I know a bunch of you guys like them, and that's great, and I celebrate that. They're not for me. I don't radically dislike the Clone Wars, but they don't really work for me either on that level, stuff like that. I do love The Force Awakens, and I do love Rogue One. But they're nowhere near as good as the original trilogy of Star Wars, in my personal opinion. So it's understanding, Vasal, that you would look at somebody like me and say, well, John, there seems to be a bunch in Star Wars that you don't really like. Then why are you so optimistic about it? I'll tell you why. I still love Star Wars so much that so much of my fandom, my imagination, everything has been so influenced and driven by all things Star Wars, and why nothing in the world of creativity or entertainment puts a bigger smile on my face than just the mentioning of those two words, Star Wars. It's because of this. When you look at the original trilogy, you just can simply not overstate what a profound impact that original trilogy had on us as a culture, and specifically the type of impact it had on the movie-going experience at all. I mean, the movie industry, listen to any producer, studio head, whatever, talk about. The movie industry changed when Star Wars came out. George Lucas created this Shakespearean amphitheater. This is my analogy for this. George Lucas created this incredible Shakespearean amphitheater to me. This incredible universe that is so rich and so deep and provides a playground for stories to come in and really come alive. And then he inhabited the Shakespearean playhouse with these three magical movies that changed movies forever. Star Wars: A New Hope, it was just called Star Wars at the time, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. and told the greatest trilogy of films ever in the history of anything. It is that playground. It is that environment. It is that world and that universe that George created that captivated the imaginations. Yes, I fell in love with the character of Luke Skywalker. Yes, I love the character of Han Solo and Princess Leia and the Millennium Falcon, the X-Wing fighters and the Death Star and the Republic and the Empire and the Emperor and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I loved all that too. But paramount to all of that, it was my love of that world. It was my love of that world. And the playing with the basic mythologies of good versus evil, of right and wrong, of levity and humor and entertainment, all wrapped into one while playing with common story tropes that we've known, but told in expressively different ways than we've ever seen. It is that world of Star Wars that inspired me to fall in love with the movies. It is, I've told this story before, guys, Star Wars is my earliest childhood memory. I remember my mom watching Star Wars with me, and I don't remember anything else for like 5 years after that, but I remember that. I remember my aunt Pina taking me to go see Empire Strikes Back. As the probe droids fell out of that Star Destroyer and shot out, and we saw the ice world of Hoth, which looked a lot like my hometown of Hamilton, but we see the ice world of Hoth and all that kind of stuff. I remember that. I remember the first time being in school and seeing the trailer for Return of the Jedi and what that did, and it made an impact on me forever. The reason that somebody like me can go in incredibly hopeful into the prequels, or go in incredibly hopeful into The Rise of Skywalker, or go in incredibly hopeful into whatever Star Wars does, not like what they did, and yet still be totally in love with Star Wars and still totally be excited about what is to come, is because the playhouse is still there. That Shakespearean playhouse that George Lucas built, that world and that universe that he built, is still there and still calls to us, and it still summons our imaginations to come to life. And there are going to be filmmakers, guys. There are going to be filmmakers that come and go. Filmmakers come and go. Studio executives come and go. Writers come and go. George Lucas himself will come and go. But that world that George Lucas created, that universe, that playground of the imagination, the things that has sparked and brought to life the creativity in some of the greatest directors, writers, and filmmakers the world has ever seen, all inspired by this original trilogy because of this universe that these stories can be told and come to life in. When directors come and go, and writers come and go, and studio executives come and go, that world's still going to be there. And then other directors will come in, and other writers will come in, and other producers will come in, and other studio executives will come in, and they'll take their shot at getting on that Shakespearean play that George Lucas crafted so many years ago, and they'll tell their story within that world. And as long as that world is there, to me, I will always be excited about whatever is coming next in the universe of Star Wars. I don't like Clone Wars, and even I'm going to check out Clone Wars, the new season when it comes out, because it's Star Wars and it takes place in that universe. So it doesn't matter if somebody like me goes into seeing The Rise of Skywalker and walks out disappointed. That's okay. That's okay. Because there will be more Star Wars to come. There will be more people and players to get on that stage and bring some other story to life with new characters and new villains and new adventures and new experiences to be had on that incredible stage. And as long as that's true, I will always look forward to what's next. And sometimes I'll like what's next, and sometimes I won't love what's next. But it's never going to deter me one way or the other, because it's still Star Wars, and it's still the house that George built. I may not have liked the second set of films that George made, but it's still the house that George built. And as long as that's there, I will always be optimistic. Chris and Aaron, I just kind of ranted and raved on there for a bit, but is there anything else that you guys want to add to that?
I just have to say, okay, I can't do this from home anymore. I can't because I've got my phone. Like, I wanted to watch the live because usually when we're in studio, for you guys that are like watching, when we're in studio, I don't have my phone in front of me. I just see the screen of what's going on, and that's how I know whether or not I'm on. John has my camera on, And so I put it on live so that I could know, all right, I can lean down and eat some oatmeal right now, or I can, pick something up, whatever. And I'm watching these comments, and somebody named Travis Earl said, "The Last Jedi is toilet water." And I'm like, and I just cannot stop laughing at that idea of Last Jedi is toilet water. And I'm reading these comments. I'm so sorry, John. I did not fully embrace what you were saying because, as you know, Star Wars is not necessarily my expertise area. But I will say, for all of you out there who said that we need to have the national anthem playing behind John when he's speaking so eloquently and passionately about Star Wars and his love for it and his Toronto Maple Leafs, I agree with you. So, yeah. That's all I
Chris, do you have anything to add?
I love Star Wars too. I've got a Boba Fett cardboard cutout wearing a cape in my living room. I should bring it out here next time. I'm so excited about all the Clone Wars things. And I think, yeah, you nailed it on the head there. Just because you love something doesn't mean you have to think everything about it is perfect. That's part of being a fan, is that you do get to say things that you aren't crazy about. You can say them well, because what have we talked about, kids? Opinions are like assholes, and just because you have one doesn't mean you have to be one. So,
and most of them stink.
Yeah, just, we all can be pretty cool about not liking certain things about Star Wars. John isn't crazy about all the Clone Wars stuff. I love it because it gives me backstory on Anakin and Obi-Wan that I sorely missed and needed to appreciate some of the movies and some of the relationships that people have. There's different nuggets for everyone in there, and, everyone's going to feel differently about it. It's fine.
All right. Anyway, guys, thank you for indulging me as I went off on that. But that's why I remain optimistic and always happy about Star Wars, even when there's stuff in Star Wars that I don't like. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for all of our main topics today. We're going to move into the second part of the show here in just a bit to take your live questions. But before we do, it's time for us to bid adieu to Aaron and Chris. Aaron, start us off here. Where can people find you in your adventures online?
You can find me online at Aaron L. Cummings. And if you want me to give a shout out to someone, and that someone may be yourself, find me on Cameo as well. And also, by the way, my episode of 911 Lone Star airs on Monday. Yay. So if you want to check that out, it is the 911 spinoff. And I have to say, I just did ADR for it 2 days ago, and I watched the scene. It is the opening scene of the episode. It's a short one, but it's really, really funny. Just the whole ridiculousness of the scene. I'm quite proud of it. And Jen Lynch, who is David Lynch's daughter, directed that episode. She did a fantastic job. So if you are interested in those procedural television shows that we talked about, check out 911 Lone Star this Monday night. You will see me being my good old-fashioned Texas self.
Woo.
And Chris, where can people find you in the meantime?
You can find me always being my Texan self on YouTube at Nerdwire, on Twitter and Instagram at actor Chris Carr, and today in Valley Village, walking my rowdy ass dogs. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, thanks for being here, guys, and we will see you guys next week. All right, guys, with all All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your indulgence as I took a moment there to go and refill the old drink to keep the throat good. Delicious. All right. With that down, guys, let's start moving on to your live questions that you guys have been sending in. And we're going to get things started off here with Undead Sick 83, who writes, "Hey, John, I disagree with you about fan service. It's everything these days. Ugh. They know what they want, probably better than others. Walking Dead had 2 horrible seasons. It didn't look like the comics. Fans complain now season 9 is one of the best. Nah, fan service is garbage. Fan service is garbage. It basically, listen, if all studios did, have you ever seen the movie Idiocracy? What was the number 1 show in the world in Idiocracy? Ow My Balls. If all you do is just useless fan service, then we're Idiocracy. And we just fall back into all the shows we're going to get is Ow My Balls. That's it. And that's not the world I want to live in. Now, you can accomplish fan service with narrative purpose and with meaning and with structure. And if there's a reason to do it and all that kind of stuff, then fan service can be good. And also little dashes of just kind of empty fan service can be okay in very moderate doses. But when you do something like this terrible Crisis on Infinite Earths thing that they did, where there was no story, the structure was terrible, and they threw in a bunch of these fan service cameos that had no narrative purpose whatsoever, so we can just go, ooh, Ow My Balls is funny. Ooh, there's Tom Welling. There's no reason for Tom Welling to be there, but there's Tom Welling. That was basically Ow My Balls. It's like, ha, you got kicked in the balls, ha. There was no reason for it, but ha, you got kicked in the balls. I don't know. So fan service can be a good thing when it has a purpose, and we've seen lots of movies do that to incorporate fan service in a really good, positive way, but fan service for the sake of fan service, I don't know. I think it just reduces us to Ow My Balls. But anyway, that's just my take on that. Okay, Willow writes, have you seen David Sandberg's original short film version of Lights Out? Yes, I did. Long before I saw the motion picture, actually. If I saw a demon creature in my hallway, I wouldn't go to bed. I'd burn down the house and move to another country. Guys, listen. First of all, Sandberg's movie Lights Out is great. But he got that movie made because he did this little short film also called Lights Out that came before the movie. And it was this little short film that he made that got him greenlit to make a full feature film. It's an incredible success story. If you guys have never seen the little short film of Lights Out, go check it out. It's one of the best little horror short films on the internet. I really, really loved it. All right, let's see here. Kimberly writes, and sends in a really large support tip. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for supporting us on that level. We really appreciate it here. Hi, John. Love your show. Thank you so much. Jurassic Park is my favorite movie ever, but I'm disappointed with the direction of the new films, dinosaurs as weapons, Clone Girl, etc. What do you think they could do to change things and improve the films at this point? Well, I'll be honest with you. Personally, I thought the last Jurassic World film, the most recent one, I thought it was the best Jurassic Park movie other than the first Jurassic Park. Now, that's not saying a lot because, none of the Jurassic Park or Jurassic World movies outside of the original have been, great. But a number of them have been enjoyable, and I actually thought this last one was probably the best one out of the bunch other than the original Jurassic Park. The thing is, I think what you can't do is just do Jurassic Park again. Like that moment when Neil gets out of the Jeep and stands up and sees the dinosaurs for the first time and does great iconic moment, right? Great iconic, but you can't do it again. It's done. It's been done. So you got to move on and do different things and try different things. And even in the Jurassic Park movies that I haven't really enjoyed, they've at least tried to do different things, whether it's bringing it into the city, bringing it mainland. Now, by the way, I thought that last Jurassic World short film that they put online, I thought that was great. And it kind of introduces us now to this, what the new world is going to look like, what this Jurassic World that they live in is going to look like post the events of the last movie. And I thought it looked pretty interesting. So you just got to continue to innovate, try different things. You can never go back home again. Again, that whole scene of him standing up and doing that's a once in a lifetime thing. You can't do that again. That now you've had that moment, but that's a moment you can only ever have once. It's like losing your virginity. You can only really do it once. And once you've done it once, then that's behind you now. You can't try to lose your virginity again. It's done. So it's going to be, what can you do to make these films even better? It's the same thing you do with any movie to make them better. Focus on your characters, have a good story, have purpose for what's going on screen. And if you do all that, then you can be in pretty good shape. So we'll see what happens with these new ones. Again, and listen, Kimberly, since you donated $50 or more, we're going to also answer this question in its own standalone video here later in the week. So keep your eyes open for that. Thank you again for supporting the channel on that level. All right. Next up, ZOMG Ruler writes, R.I.P. Terry Jones and honorary Python Neil Innes, who died on December 29th. My favorite Jones role was Patsy in The Holy Grail, and Neil as Ron Nasty, John Lennon parody in The Roodles. Both men were actually at Terry's house on Innes' birthday when news broke that Lennon died. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Again, we talked about it on the show yesterday, of course, with Terry Jones passing away. One of the founders of I don't think it's an exaggeration to say the greatest comedy troupe of all time in Monty Python. And he wasn't just another cat. He was one of the founders. He directed a number of their films. He wrote a lot of their stuff. Just a tremendous loss. And I've always wanted them to come back, man. I always wanted like the surviving members of Monty Python to get, and they did about 10 years ago. They did like a reunion show or something like that. I'm trying to remember exactly, but man, God, I love Monty Python stuff, dude. I love Monty Python stuff. Let's see. Scott K writes, I liked your Yuzhang Vong suggestion yesterday. I would love to see an all-out war between two equal sides set in the Star Wars universe, epic battles, super weapons, nobles, and knights, while retiring the overused David versus Goliath rebel story, in my opinion. So one of the things that came up on yesterday's show, what Scott is referring to, one of the things that came up on the show yesterday was, what do you do with this next Star Wars movie that is reportedly going to be 400 years prior to the events of the first Star Wars movie? And the one suggestion I came up with, and personally, I want them to do whatever they want to do. That's fine. But if I was put on the spot and Kathleen Kennedy called me and said, what do we do with this movie? I might lean towards bringing in the Yuzhang Vong, which is a race of beings from the old retired Legends Star Wars novels. And they were this, alien race beyond the Outer Rim, beyond the Expanse, that posed a big threat to the galaxy. And while it's not told, the timeline wouldn't be consistent with, the Legend stuff. The Legend stuff aren't canon, so it doesn't matter. I always thought that could be interesting. I like the way you put it, Scott. You can still have epic battles, two equal sides, super weapons, nobles and knights, all that kind of stuff. I would love the idea. It could still be crap because it all depends on the execution. But yeah, I'd be down for the idea. All right, let's see here. Where are we at here? Oh, there we go. Seth L. writes, Judge John, my friend and I are having a debate, and we decided you are going to be the judge. Oh boy, here we go. If the dialogue/acting was equal to the action sequences in the prequels, but same script, would they be on par with the original trilogy? Loser buys lunch. No. Because a lot of the problem is the script. That's the problem with a lot of the problems. I mean, yes, George Lucas, in his own words, doesn't like working with actors. I mean, so he's just like, yeah, just go do a scene and we'll do whatever. We'll fix it in post. I mean, that was kind of his attitude as a director when it came to the prequel era. I've always said, though, even as somebody who doesn't like the prequels, that if you just look at a one-page synopsis, like a one-page outline for each of the prequel films, I think the bare bones are there for some really good movies. I think if you boil down those three movies to just like a one-page bullet point outline structure, I think the bones are there for really good stories and really good movie. But the scripts, to me, the main weaknesses of those films was the scripts. And so, no, in my personal opinion, now other people may have different feelings on that, and that's totally great. That's why we're all film fans and we all have different opinions. But if you are appointing me judge for this debate between you two, I don't know which one of you went for it, but no, they will not be on the same level as the original trilogy because a lot of the problem was indeed in the script. Okay. Angela Dashner writes, Let's see. Saw Jojo Rabbit. And by the way, Angela, thank you for supporting the channel on that level very much. Saw Jojo Rabbit and wow. So now I can't decide if 1917 or Jojo is at number one. Thank you. Without listening to your appreciation of Jojo Rabbit, I might not have gone. And listen, I don't blame you because like Jojo Rabbit is such a weird sounding movie. Okay, let me get this straight. During World War II, in Germany, a kid whose imaginary best friend is Adolf Hitler. What do you do with that? So I totally get that there were probably many people who were not all that interested in checking out this movie. Like, it had Taika Waititi directing it, so I'm obviously intrigued. But outside of that, it's like, yeah, what are you going to do here? I was not prepared for how brilliant that movie was. And by the way, 1917 is incredible. 1917 is incredible. I believe it's the film that will win Best Picture. If I was voting, I would vote Jojo Rabbit. Second, I would vote Parasite. But third, I would vote 1917. So, and I do believe 1917 is going to win, and I'm going to have no arguments. I'm going to have no complaints. I will not complain in the least if 1917 wins, because it's a fantastic movie. But yeah, oh God, I love Jojo so much. Love Jojo Rabbit so much. All right. Murray Reich writes, I heard that Netflix is producing a documentary series titled Clown Inside the Mind. Clown Inside the Mind of Antonio Brown. LOL. Just kidding. You know what? It's gotten to the point that it's just sad. It's actually sad because Antonio Brown is one of the most purely gifted athletes in professional football we've seen in a long time. And it's just really unfortunate that he keeps getting in his own way by acting stupid. And I mean, I don't want him on the Patriots, but I do hope he can turn things around. I hope he can get himself under control and then get his circumstances under control. And because it would just be such a shame to see a guy who's so gifted not put it out on the field. You know what I mean? But he may have played his last game in the NFL. I mean, I don't know. He may have sabotaged his own career, but we'll have to kind of wait and see how that all goes. Angela Dashner then follows up with a part two, or a two-parter. 1 and 2, JoJo or 1917, so close. 3, Farewell. I love Farewell. 4, Knives Out. Love Knives Out. Number 5, Endgame. Number 6, Parasite. Number 7, Aladdin. Number 8, Ford v Ferrari. Number 9, Judy. Number 10, The Irishman. Thanks for helping to expand my horizons. Tried The Lighthouse. Great acting, but came out, huh? Any film do that to you and Rob? Well, obviously Rob's not here today, but Lighthouse did that to me. Yeah, Lighthouse. When I came out of The Lighthouse, number one, I was enthralled with the acting performances of Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe and their chemistry together. It's incredible. Like your eyes are glued to the screen the whole time. That being said, when I came out of the screening, some of you guys may have seen my reaction, which, like, wait a minute, what? What did I just watch? Like, I was perplexed. I was absolutely perplexed. I just had no idea what it was that I just saw. So did I have an experience like that? Yeah. And it was the same movie you did. Enthralled by it, incredible performances, and clearly a very artistic movie. But by the end of it, I was like, what did I just watch? Because I'm not really sure. So yeah, I had that experience there. All right. An anonymous viewer writes, breaking news, Tom Brady's daddy just retired from the NFL. I'm not quite sure what that means, but I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere. All right. Mike Gunnenson writes, John, 1 of 2. John, I understand that you dislike Godzilla King of the Monsters, but I wanted to ask, what would your dream Godzilla movie be? Would you want it to be a somber toned or whimsical? What would be your ideal city/location for the battles to take place? Ideally, I would love to hear what you and Rob would do with the Godzilla movie if you had complete control. Throw me everything you've got. Thanks for the great show. I am a proud supporter. Well, thank you so much, Mike, and that's an incredible level of support for the show. Thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate it. All right. First things first. I've talked about this a lot. I try not to say what I would do with a movie. I think that's something we as fans do too much of. I am trying more and more over the last couple of years. What I'm trying to do more and more over the last couple of years is say, I just want to see what the filmmakers are going to do. Because here's what happens. And I do this too. And this is why it frustrates me. What we as fans do, including me, is when a movie's coming out, we start writing the movie in our own heads. This is what they should do in the movie. And when the movie doesn't do what we think it should do, then we have a negative reaction to it. It's happened to me. It's happened to you. We're all guilty of it. So I've been trying more and more lately to not do the, here's what they should do with this movie thing, because I've done that a lot and I'm trying to do it less. Like with the Star Wars thing, like, okay, if Kathleen Kennedy called me and put me on the spot and said I had to come up with something, what do I do? Okay, well, there's what I would do. But just let me put that out there first, Mike, that my first reaction is, I don't want to come up with what they should do. I just want to see what they want to do. But if you're going to put me on the spot and you're asking, okay, would it be somber toned or whimsical? I don't know that whimsical is the right approach for a Godzilla. I mean, any approach can be done, and if it's executed right, it could work. But in my own head, when I think of Godzilla, I don't think whimsical. Like, if you want whimsical, go watch the old Godzilla and Godzuki cartoon. Go watch that if you want whimsical. But that doesn't mean there can't be lightheartedness. It doesn't mean there can't be humor. You can put all that in there. But I would go for a, borderline action horror comedy. Action, horror, and comedy. And comedy would be the third on the list. It wouldn't be the primary thing. I would use comedy the way that, like, say, I don't know, certain filmmakers use comedy where they use comedy strategically to break up when a film is getting too heavy, right? So when a film starts to get too heavy and you're in danger of really bogging the audience down, throwing good shots of humor to even the tone out a little bit. So I would go action, horror, comedy is kind of the structure I would use at any rate. And look, and when it comes to Godzilla, there really is only so much you can do. He's a giant city-sized monster. I mean, there's not a lot you can do there other than have him fight other giant city-sized monsters. That's about it. That's the Godzilla bag. I mean, that's it. Like, I'm not sure where this franchise goes after Godzilla versus Kong. Like, after that, even if this film is successful, and these films have not been the most successful, but even if this one is successful, do you still do another one? I'm not sure. It's tough. But again, I would make sure you put the focus on story. It's like any other movie, action, comedy, drama, period piece, otherwise. Put the focus on the story. Then, if you're going to have a lot of human characters, give us well thought out human characters, not like Godzilla King of the Monsters. And let that being your underlying support. Because if you have that, then you can do a lot of other things. So, obviously, what do? Godzilla fights another giant monster. There's nothing else you could do. Because you can't do a movie where Godzilla has to help a neighborhood come over their racial tensions. Like, that's not a Godzilla movie you can do. Godzilla helps a young girl deal with the fact that she's, only a young teenager and pregnant. And Godzilla helps her get through that hard time. Godzilla helps Abraham Lincoln, during that era. I mean, your options for what you do with a Godzilla movie are by nature very much limited. And so you lean into that. But yeah, tone, I don't go whimsical. Action, in this order, action first, horror elements second most dominant, and then the use of good humor just to break it up when it starts to get too heavy. You do that while focusing on a good solid story with thought out characters. If you're going to use a lot of human characters, then I think you could be a winner. Then just lots of destruction. Just lots and lots and lots of destruction. And that's your formula for a Godzilla movie. But again, you can do it totally differently and still have it work out fantastically well. And I just want to see a good movie executed well. So we'll have to wait and see. All right. Next up here, we got Jonah, who writes, Sir Patrick Stewart could probably make a cameo appearance in the MCU, kind of like Lou Ferrigno. Maybe Hugh Jackman can do the same. Oh, absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. Yeah, no doubt he could. I don't know, though, because what Jonah is referring to here, what I don't know, though, is that I don't think Kevin Feige needs to book a meeting with Sir Patrick Stewart to sit down fly across the country, sit down with him to say, do you want to do a walk-on cameo in one movie? That's something you can send him an email about and see if he'd be interested. But I am totally down with that, Jonah. You definitely listen. If Patrick Stewart is down for doing a quick, fun little cameo, like Lou Ferrigno did and stuff like that, I'm all for it. You don't make him the new Stan Lee, but like once you start doing X-Men, having Patrick Stewart cameo as a librarian or something like that, I'm totally down for that. I think that would be great. Jonah also writes, does Disney own only Marvel Studios or Marvel as a whole? Are all Marvel characters basically Disney characters now? Yes. Disney owns all of Marvel. They own everything. That's why Kevin Feige was actually just put as the head of all their print stuff as well. Kevin Feige's now the head guy with all their comics too. I mean, he runs everything. So yes, to answer your question, Jonah, Disney owns Marvel and all things Marvel involved. It's all owned by Disney, all under one roof. Okay. Avery writes, Spielberg, Scorsese, Nolan, Tarantino, James Cameron. Is there anyone that has worked with more big name directors than Leo? Listen, in this era, no. In this era, no. I mean, look, I think if you go probably back into other, eras of the movie world, if you go back into other areas like that, other eras with different actors and things like that, then yeah, you may have come up with like actors who worked with all of the biggest directors of that era. But if we're going to talk specifically about this era, then it is hard to think of anybody today. I mean, not Harrison Ford. I mean, Harrison Ford's worked with George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, things like that. But I mean, God, I mean, he's worked with them all. He has worked with all of the biggest names today. And he's a guy that every big major director wants to work with. And I think that's a major testament to him. That's a great observation. All right. Darth Pinky and the Brain writes, I still feel after seeing The Rise of Skywalker a few times that I was hoping they would have explained how Palpatine survived, which they didn't. It's basically like what James Marsden character asking Sonic, how are you not dead? And then he would respond, I have no idea. See, listen, I'm of the mind that movies don't need to explain everything. Movies don't and shouldn't be expected to explain everything. You got 2 hours to tell a story. We don't need every little background detail on everything. Like the whole Snoke thing. We didn't need to know where Snoke came from. It wasn't important. It's just not important to the story. We got through all the original Star Wars movies without knowing anything about Palpatine's background because it wasn't necessary. But when something is already made an important part of the story, the death of Palpatine in Return of the Jedi, that is a major story point in the landscape of Star Wars. That is a major story event within the world of Star Wars that we have already portrayed on screen, the death of Palpatine. When that's there and you just suddenly bring him back, that's got to be explained. That has got to be explained. You can have a character named One-Armed Jim in your TV show. Hey, look, here comes One-Armed Jim. You don't have to go into how One-Armed Jim lost his arm. If he's just right from the beginning that he's been in the show, he's always been One-Armed Jim. You don't have to explain why he lost his arm or where he lost his arm. It'd be nice if he did, but that's just him. It's the character One-Armed Jim. He's always, as long as he's been in the show, he's always had one arm. If all of a sudden in season 4, the season premiere of your show comes up in season 4, and suddenly Jim has 2 arms, you're gonna have to explain that. Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're probably going to have to explain that because it's already been so established in this universe that he's One-Armed Jim. He only has one arm. You can't just suddenly have him have 2 arms and not tell us what the hell happened. And that's how I feel about the whole Emperor thing. You had him die in a major on-screen, one of the most significant events in the history of the Star Wars lore, Palpatine dying. You're suddenly going to bring him back 30 years later. You got to give some kind of explanation. And that was just one of many things that I found a little bit frustrating about The Rise of Skywalker. Again, I know a lot of people liked it, and that's awesome. I don't want to yuck on anybody's yum, but that was one of the big things that really bothered me about that. It was kind of frustrating. It was kind of frustrating. Anyway, Darth Pinky in the Brain then writes, it's like Deadpool would say, now that's just lazy writing. Yep, I dislike the prequels, but like you, I like certain elements from it. They felt like cohesive storytelling. Obviously, the characters were poorly written, which films suffered, especially Sand. Yeah, listen, one of the things that I've always said about the prequels, look, I don't like the prequels in the least, but there are things about the prequels that I appreciate. And one of the things, now, while I prefer the new Star Wars films significantly more than the prequels, one of the things that the prequels did right that the new films did totally wrong was George, during the prequels, had a clear plan. I may not have liked the way he executed it, and I may not have liked how he got there, but George had a clear path and vision and plan for his 3 movies. Before they started, he didn't have all the scripts done, but he knew where his story was going. And so each movie and installment and chapter paved the way for what was coming next. And that is something they did not do with the new trilogy. And something that this new trilogy really would have benefited from had they done that. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Okay, here. The world's greatest detective writes, the world's greatest detective, John, it's me, Batman. Thank you for supporting Ben from the beginning. He did an amazing job of portraying me. Amidst so many naysayers, it brought me joy to hear you believing him. Know that I believe in you. Well, thank you so much for that. And now, listen, look, I'm not sticking my head in the sand. I know that the DCU movies have their issues. I know that. And I know Batman versus Superman had issues, and I know all that kind of stuff, but I loved Ben Affleck as Batman. I thought he was wonderful. I just thought he understood the character of Batman way more than a lot of other people who've done it. And there have been other people who've done it and done a great job. I just felt like Ben Affleck had an understanding of Batman that very, very few people in Hollywood do. And I've talked about that before. And I've talked about how he almost uniquely understood that Bruce Wayne is a figment of the imagination. Bruce Wayne is not the real person. Bruce Wayne is the mask. The cowl is the real face of that individual. When his parents died in that dark alley, really, young Bruce Wayne died that night, and the Batman was born. And since then, the mask is really who he is, and Bruce Wayne is the fake artificial mask. That's the act. And every incarnation of Batman we've always seen has never really gotten that. It's always been, no, I'm Bruce Wayne, blah, blah, blah. But hey, at night I'll put on the cowl and, I'll have this persona. Ooh. Ben portrayed it in such a way that he got that was the real him. And I always appreciate that. They kind of let that fall apart when they got into Justice League, unfortunately. And I do like Justice League. But yeah, I've always appreciated Ben's approach. Okay, anyway, let's see. Anonymous writes, greetings, John. We're almost a month away from the Invisible Man remake, and I am pumped. I think the movie looks great. They've given away way too much in the trailer, but the movie does look really good. And I'm pumped. If it does moderately or extremely well, what are the chances Universal fast tracks another classic monster, Creature of the Black Lagoon, perhaps? Thanks and have a great week. Honestly, when you look, and I think this Invisible Man movie with Elizabeth Moss, I think it looks fantastic. Honestly, I think the trailer's great, other than the fact that it gives away way too much. Still, I think the trailer looks wonderful. And I think there's a lot of potential there. But when you look at the trailer, yeah, technically you can say that the Invisible Man is one of the classic Universal monsters. You can say that, but this doesn't come across that way. This Invisible Man movie looks like it has nothing in common with like a Creature from the Black Lagoon or a Dracula or a Frankenstein or a Wolfman or whatever other character you want to put in. This clearly has very little, if nothing, to do. This looks like just a modern day psychological thriller. That's what it really looks more like than anything else. So if Invisible Man comes out and is a huge hit, to be honest with you, I don't think it'll move the needle one way or the other for Universal on the traditional monster movies. I really don't think it's going to have any impact on it. Now, they might have had a different idea for their Invisible Man before when they were doing the Mummy and everything, but this is clearly a different iteration of that. So I really don't know that it's going to have any impact whatsoever, because I think if people rush out to see Invisible Man, I don't think that means, well, these people must really want to see a Frankenstein movie. It's two really different things, so I don't know if it's going to impact it at all. All right, Mandalorian of Gondor writes, hey, John, two-part question. Have you checked out the pop-up Breaking Bad experience in West Hollywood? I have not. I've not even heard of it, as a matter of fact. It's really cool, and I would recommend if you're a fan. It ends on January 31st. Also, have you continued watching Harley Quinn? Episode 8 cracked me up. I have continued watching Harley Quinn, and I got to tell you, dude, Ann and I are loving this show. We are absolutely loving this show. Now, I'm not saying that... what am I trying to say here? I'm not saying that every episode of Harley Quinn has been top shelf. There are one or two that are weaker, but overall, Ann and I are just cracking up, really enjoying this show. And I love Ivy. Ivy is probably my favorite character in the show. I mean, Harley obviously is great, but Ivy is wonderful. I'm loving King Shark. I'm loving Bane. Bane only has a few lines like one line here and there throughout the entire, but I'm loving Bane. I'm just really digging the show. I'm digging the show a lot. And I will have to go and try to check out that, pop-up thing that you were talking about, because it sounds like it would be pretty cool. All right. Let's see. Next up here. Megan's number one fan writes, did you see The View yesterday? No, but I did hear about this. Patrick Stewart invited Whoopi Goldberg to return as Guinan for the second season of Picard. Are you excited for this? Who else would you like to see? Never thought there'd be a reason to discuss The View on the John Campea Show. I don't know that I'd say I'm excited. Would it be interesting to see Guinan reappear? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, if Picard sucks, which I think it looks really good, but I haven't watched it yet. So I don't know. If Picard sucks, then I'm not suddenly going to be okay and interested in it just because Guinan is there. You know what I'm saying? So, and as far as who would I like to see come back, I don't care. As long as what I don't want is just stupid, useless fan service. If you're going to bring somebody in, make sure there's a narrative purpose. And if there's narrative purpose, it can be anybody. Bring in Wesley Crusher, bring in Worf, bring in whoever you want. I mean, that's all good, but only do it, please, if you have something there for them to do and there's a reason they're there. Don't pull one of these stupid Burt Ward in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Wow, I'm here. Now I'm gone. I mean, there was no reason for him to be there. Just as long as you've given them a purpose, then I'm good with anybody that they bring back. All right. Let's see. Gene writes, Deadline is reporting Captain Marvel 2 officially in development. Megan McDonnell, writer for WandaVision, we were talking about her a little bit earlier, is in talks to helm the course. I'm so hyped to see her kick ass again. I love her style and attitude so much. I cannot wait. Let's go for another billion. And yeah, I'm excited about it. Now listen, Captain Marvel is not in my top half of favorite MCU films. It's in the lower half of my favorite MCU films, but I still liked it. I still liked it quite a bit, actually. Out of the two Captain Marvel movies, the Shazam movie and the Marvel Captain Marvel, I thought Shazam was the better film, just to be honest. I like the MCU overall more, but I thought Shazam was freaking awesome. But I like Captain Marvel. I had a very good time with it. I went to see it multiple times. I enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to see a second one. And I don't know how excited to be about Megan McDonnell being attached, because I haven't seen WandaVision yet. But it does say that they were probably pretty confident in her if they've seen what she's done with WandaVision, and they want to bring her into a feature film project. That's got to say something good. So I'm choosing to be optimistic. Look, it might be a hot bloody mess. Maybe it will be, but right now I'm choosing to stay kind of optimistic. All right. What's next here? That was Gene. The next up is Kenneth Colton, who writes, hey, Yeoh, as someone who has been a Patreon team member going on 3 years, I would seriously like you to consider me as a chat moderator just to help. I have expertise and I feel blah, blah, blah. Hey, listen, honestly, I totally appreciate you sending that in, Kenneth. very, very much. But that is a better message just to send to me on email. If you're going to send in topics to talk about, send in topics that we are all here to discuss. So that is, and again, I appreciate that very much. But again, that's the sort of message that if you want to send that to me, the best thing to do is to send that to me as an email, as opposed to writing as a super chat, because that's not what everybody's here to can participate in. That's not something that everybody here can participate in. Okay, next up here. The next one we've got here is Joker Rabbit, who writes, do you know what an equally powerful scene as the shoe scene is? It's the next scene after that, which I call the knife scene, where Jojo confronts Elsa. That was so emotionally powerful. Hope Jojo surprises everybody and wins Best Picture at the Oscars. And you're not wrong. I mean, I still think the shoe scene to me is still the scene. That is the scene to me. But you're right. The scene wouldn't mean much if it then just went into obscurity after that. They followed it up with more strong scenes. And you're right. All those scenes between Jojo and Elsa, I thought throughout the entire movie were incredibly powerful. And I am with you, Joe Joker Rabbit. I like that. Joe Joker Rabbit. I just caught that. I am with you. I am going to be screaming and cheering my guts out for Jojo Rabbit to win Best Picture. I do not think it will. I think it'll be 1917. And like I said earlier, I will have no complaints when it wins, because 1917 is brilliant. I am cheering for Jojo, but when 1917 wins, and I do think it'll be 1917, I will have no complaints, because I think the movie is absolutely brilliant. And that's all I can ask for. All I can ask for is not that the Oscars award the movie I want to win, but just ask that a truly excellent, wonderful film actually ends up winning the award. And as long as you do that, then I'm going to be completely okay. I'm going to be completely okay as long as it's a truly great film. So if Jojo Rabbit wins, awesome. If 1917 wins, awesome. If Parasite wins, awesome. If Ford v Ferrari wins, awesome. As long as it's an awesome film that wins, then I'll be happy. You don't need to do anything else. But I will be keeping my fingers crossed for Jojo Rabbit for sure. Okay, Russell Amador writes, hey, John, I'm super hyped to check out The Gentleman, especially after your immediate reaction video. The Regal Pass is about to be put to good use over the next couple of weeks. Now, if I can get them to trim down the trailers and the wait for snacks. Yeah, those are two big problems about the movie-going experience right now. Listen, let me reemphasize this again when it comes to The Gentleman. You got to understand that I really love Lock, Stock, and Snatch. This movie, therefore, that to me has so much of the DNA of Snatch and Lock, Stock, being directed by Guy Ritchie, it really hit all the buttons for me. So I just want to warn you, though, that if you're seeing me get all excited about The Gentleman, and I loved it, I thought it was tremendous fun. But I do want to give you the warning that it may not be for you. And if you're somebody who, like a movie like Snatch or Lock, Stock doesn't quite do it for you, then I have a feeling that The Gentleman may not be for you either. It is for me, though. Holy crap, I love this film. So I'm hoping you have a chance to get out and see it. And when you do get out and see it, I do hope very much that it works for you on the same level it did for me. But again, like Snatch and like Lock, Stock, these are movies that are a little bit of an acquired taste. So you just gotta keep that in mind there. Let's see. Where are we now here? TJCS Biggest Fan writes, hey, John, I really wish I could show you how far my personal movie reviews have come since I first started last year. I had the opportunity to watch The Gentleman early in December, and I wanted to share it with you, but I don't know how. I appreciate that, and by all means, please do that. I will say this, though. I get messages every day asking me, John, I've done this. Can you please come check it out? And I just got to be honest with you, I just simply don't have the time for it. I just don't. But who cares? Who cares what I see or what I like? The key thing here is that you're doing it. You're getting involved. You're adding your voice to the community. That's the key and important thing. What I think about it's irrelevant. Who cares what the hell I think? What do I know? Just as long as you're doing it and you're having a good time with it, that's the important thing. So good on you, man. That's great. All right. Let's see. Ethan Hunt writes, considering how excited I was when the episode 7 trailer dropped, I never thought that my reaction here at the end of walking out of The Rise of Skywalker would be, thank God this trilogy is over. But I love Star Wars more than I hate the sequel movies. So, and look, at the end of the day, That's all you can be. Look, you go in and watch a movie and you either like it or you don't. Hopefully, you either like it or don't because the story didn't work for you, it didn't function on this level, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully, you're not one of these people like, there's a black person in it, I don't like it. Like, go fuck yourself if you're one of those people. But, I mean, look, but if a movie doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. I love The Force Awakens. Love it. But there are people who don't, and that's cool. There are people who love The Rise of Skywalker. And I don't, and that's cool. But it is what it is. So even though I came out of The Rise of Skywalker going, wow, like even though I have some troubles, to put it mildly, with The Rise of Skywalker, the fact is, as I explained already, I won't go into it all again, I'm still a major Star Wars fan. And I still can't wait for whatever they do next. And guess what? Even if the thing they do next is something else I don't like, I'm still going to look really forward to whatever they do next. Because it's still the house that George built. It is still that grand Shakespearean playhouse of a playground of a Star Wars universe in a galaxy far, far away. And as long as that's there, there will always be different storytellers to come and go. I will always be a fan of that stage. This stage is what I'm always going to be a fan of. And I may like some of the things that come on the stage, and I may not like some of the things that come on the stage. But that stage is I'm always going to look forward to what comes up next. I'm always going to approach it optimistically, and I'm always going to be excited. Even if I walk out of one that I didn't like The Rise of Skywalker. So that's just me. All right, let's see. What's next here? Ethan also writes, where do you go? Dave Filoni's pet Ahsoka going toe-to-toe with Darth Maul is a turn-off for you, but Lucasfilm's pet Rey, well, Lucasfilm is the company. You're talking about one individual versus the whole company. You do see the difference, right? Anyway, but Lucasfilm's pet Rey can hijack the original trilogy character's legacy. She didn't hijack. What are you talking about? And destroy the Emperor, and it's fine. Well, because she was all of the Jedi at that point. Don't forget about that. I'm just teasing you, man. We all have our likes and dislikes. No, look, I love The Force Awakens. I like The Last Jedi. I do not like The Rise of Skywalker. But it's 40 years later. There are new characters and new heroes. And there's one Jedi left, and it's Rey. And the Force has moved in her in a very powerful way, unlike they have in other characters. And that's just been established by the main movie trilogy. Not some one-off writer somewhere doing their own little thing. It's the main movie trilogy. And you can like or not like what they've done, and that's perfectly fine. But it's a totally different... I see that as a totally different situation. All right. James Hoffman writes, did you watch Star Trek Picard? No, I have not seen it yet. I thought it was fantastic. Great acting by Patrick Stewart. Well, that I just assumed. Great production value. It did like the promotional spots have looked like the production value was really sharp. Great production value. Where we go. Very respectful of the next generation with just the right amount of nostalgia. Some nice poignant scenes too. Looking forward to more episodes. I seriously cannot wait. I cannot wait to watch this. I think I was excited the day that they announced it. I've really loved the look and the feel of the promotional spots. So I'm looking forward to diving into it. I really, really am. I'm glad you liked it, James, because you just made me a little bit more excited for it. All right. Let's see. Payne, aka Batman, writes, hey, Campea, watch My Hero Academia. You know what's funny? I just got an email this morning from a studio asking me if I want an advanced copy of a new Hero Academia movie. Something Hero is in it. Anyway, so that's funny. Watch My Hero Academia. I'm really not an anime guy, but this show is awesome. You do a great job with the show. Keep it up, you breakdancing movie dude. Well, thank you so much for that. And listen, you're not the only one who's been telling me to get into My Hero Academia. Even my own wife has been telling me to start watching it. So at some point, I am going to sit down and watch My Hero Academia. I've had too many of you guys tell me that I need to watch it. So I waved the white flag. I'm going to sit down and give it a shot. I'm not quite sure when I'm going to have a chance to do that, but I am going to check out My Hero Academia. All right. Let's see. Matthew Phillips writes, hey, John/Rob, if you could have any actor portray you in a biopic, who would they be? Oh, I don't, as long as it's a good actor, I don't care. Rob Lowe, maybe? Get Rob Lowe to play me. A younger version of Rob Lowe. Yeah. First of all, I'd be stunned that they'd be making a movie about me. That'll be probably the most boring movie you've ever seen in your life. Other than that, hey, I'll take any. I'm just still stunned at the notion. I'm just trying to think about it. And I'm still just shocked at the idea of them making a movie about me. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe Rob Lowe. Maybe I don't know. I have no idea. All right, thank you for the question, though. Marie Seifring writes, Eli Manning is retiring. What next? Hall of Fame, coaching, broadcasting, etc. Thoughts and thanks. Well, yeah, he's going in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I believe he's a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. Yeah, kind of gets you into the Hall of Fame. He's no Peyton Manning. But I mean, look, the dude's got 2 Super Bowl rings. He was a Super Bowl MVP twice, and both times he beat the Patriots to do it. I mean, that's a Hall of Fame resume right there, and his stats speak for themselves as well. I don't know that you'll ever see him doing broadcasting, though. I don't think he or his brother are like the best communicators to do broadcasting, like a play-by-play, that sort of thing. But I mean, maybe coaching, but it doesn't seem like that was tickled Peyton's fancy either. So maybe just take his millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars and go relax on a beach in Barbados or something. But Hall of Fame is definitely in his future. Hall of Fame is definitely in his future. Okay, what's next here? Here we go. Star Wars Rocks writes, 1 of 2. Hey, John, with the final scene in the new Clone Wars trailer being Ahsoka versus Maul, didn't you realize that Maul's lightsaber isn't the same one that's in Rebels as it looks... Sorry, that's in Rebels as it from... Isn't the same one that's in Rebels as it from the looks of it seems to be his brother's? Nope, didn't notice, didn't care. Didn't notice, didn't care. I mean, because that can mean anything. I think we as fans, particularly we as Star Wars fans, and I'm guilty of this too, by the way, like this guy is as guilty of it as anybody. We see little things and we try to build elaborate theories around it. And really there could be a million different explanations for what that is. But again, I didn't even notice it. So I'm not really, the best guy to give a commentary on, because I didn't even notice it the first time through. But it's interesting. That's an interesting observation. All right. D308X writes, the ratings for the backdoor pilot for Arrow came out. It was the best rating of an Arrow episode in over a year. Even though I don't like Oliver's kids, they seem more tolerable than before. And Laurel and Dinah are other leads in it. It has potential. I hope it gets picked up. I have zero interest in it. I have less than zero interest in it. I really don't. For those of you guys who have watched me for long enough, the first couple of seasons of Arrow, there hasn't been a show that I was that excited about for a long time. I just loved the first few series of Arrow. I referred to myself as an Arrow evangelist. I made it part of my life's mission to make sure everybody knew about this show Arrow and how great it was. They lost a lot of steam, and then they had some better moments too, and then worse moments and better moments and worse moments, and it kind of went and fluctuated. While I like the actresses, I do not like the Laurel character. I do not like the Dinah character. I really dislike Oliver's stupid kids. Again, nothing about the performers. I'm just saying the way these characters are written. So I have little to no interest. So that's not something I'm going to be watching My Hero Academia long before I'll ever give a shot to this thing. I just don't have any interest. Too much other stuff on TV for me to watch. Trey Clark just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you so much, Trey. Star Wars Rocks then follows up with part 2. Because his lightsaber in Rebels was made from an Inquisitor's lightsaber, an Inquisitor's lightsaber, would that ease your butthurtedness, because I mentioned I was very butthurt about it, now and also Order 66 was issued in the middle of their fight. No, I just don't care. I mean, I have very, very little interest in it. Look, Clone Wars is something that I went into, I tried, I embraced. I'm not really interested in more Clone Wars. But I will give it a shot and check it out. And look, there's a million different things that can happen in the show, right? Like, all we saw was a snippet. All we saw was this brief little moment in time from the show that could mean one of a million different things. And one of those million different things could be something that I really enjoy. But as of right now, I have no interest. I will give it a shot, but as of right now, I just have no interest. So that doesn't really change things for me at all. Let's see. Maxwell Bishop 1 writes, hey, sorry if you've already talked about this. I probably just missed it, but what are your plans for Dark Side, Light Side? It seems like there has been one while. We did address this about a dozen times already, but just so you know, Dark Side, Light Side is now on the shelf. It's on permanent hiatus. Between my movie, another thing that just came up for Christian, and the fact that Christian has said this on his own show publicly, so I can say it here. Christian just doesn't want to talk about Star Wars anymore, really. All that kind of stuff combined kind of made it impossible for us to continue with it. So Dark Side, Light Side, I'm not saying it'll never return. But as of right now, it's on indefinite hiatus. So we'll say that for now. It's on indefinite hiatus. Not to mention, we don't even know when the next Star Wars movie is coming. We have no idea when the next Star Wars show is coming. So yeah, all that kind of stuff just led us to putting it on a indefinite hiatus. So we'll see what happens in the future, though. Colby Harris writes, your thoughts on the John Walker Captain America in Falcon and Winter Soldier? I don't even think he's Captain America. I think he's probably U.S. agent. So yeah, I mean, look, it's impossible to have a thought because I have no idea what the context is. Just some leaked pictures came out. It's hard. Everybody's assuming that they know what it means, but nobody does know what it means. So I don't want to get carried away positively or negatively about what the images mean, because we've seen lots of people jump to huge conclusions over out of context first release pictures. We've seen so many, and 99% of them are always wrong. So I'm not going to get too worked up about it either positively or negative at this point. Right now, it's just photos. All right. The Dano Snell writes, are you going to Star Wars Celebration, and what big panels do you think we'll have? If you're going, I hope to run into you. Yes, Anne and I are going. Actually, Anne already has her cosplay ready. Anne has decided to play as the Inquisitor from Star Wars Fallen Order, Jedi Fallen Order. So she's already got her costume for it. So yes, what panels they have, I have no idea. I'm guessing an Obi-Wan panel, and I'm guessing some big announcements about what the next Star Wars movie will be. I'm guessing it'll be a 2022, but then again, we don't even know if they're keeping their 2022 release date or not. So we're going to have to kind of hold out, wait and see what turns out there. Okay, last couple of questions, guys. Cody Cord writes, hey, John, what is your favorite David Fincher film? Mine is Zodiac. I just love the story, and I'm so hooked into the case that I still look stuff up. Still look stuff up about it. What are your thoughts on it? And being 50 years and Zodiac still not been found. Thanks. I'll be honest with you. I am not the biggest fan of Zodiac. I'm just not the biggest. I'm not the biggest fan of Zodiac. I like Zodiac. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is great. Look, I like Zodiac, but it's never been my favorite. I had problems with it when I first saw it. Like, don't get me wrong. In a world of either giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, I give it a thumbs up. So we're on the same team here, okay? So don't get mad at me. But I never adored it like that much. I certainly liked The Social Network better. I liked Girl with the Dragon Tattoo better. I liked Fight Club better. I liked Seven better. I get asked all the time, at least once every couple of months, and you spread that over a number of years. That means I've been asked a lot. What's my favorite David Fincher film? And I think I always give different answers depending on the day and what my mood is like. Today, and maybe for the last little while, I might have to say Gone Girl. And maybe I'll say something different tomorrow. Fight Club. I think if you ask Rob, he might say Social Network. But I might have to say Gone Girl. I really, really, really do love that film. Okay, anyway. Next up and final question of the day comes to us from Ram Saran, who writes, getting high and watching What Did Jack Do? The new David Lynch short film on Netflix, which I have not seen, just blew my mind. The man is a convoluted and weird genius. I could not stop laughing. Could be the high though, LOL. That's always a possibility, Ram. That is always a possibility. It could potentially just be the high. I have heard about this. I have not had a chance to sit down and watch it yet, though. So I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it, so I can't really comment on it, but everybody seems really excited about it, and I love your description. The man is a convoluted and weird genius. I could not stop laughing. It could be the high, though, so now I absolutely got to check it out. But I have not seen it yet, but I will, thanks to your recommendation. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this. Listen, for those of you who are Patreon supporters, don't forget that right after this show is done, about 5 minutes after this show is done, I'm going to be jumping on over to the Discord server where we're going to be having our John Campea Show post-show chat. So if you guys are a part of the Patreon, you want to come over and participate in like a 15-20 minute post-show chat, come on over and join me there once the broadcast is done. Guys, special thank you to all of you who sent in questions. Not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also you supported the channel while you were doing it. And all of us here on the John Campea Show and our YouTube channel, thank you very, very much for that support. And by the way, speaking of which, if you want to start sending in your questions for tomorrow's show, you can already do it. Just use that link. You can use that link that's down there, top line of the description of the video. That's streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You can use that link anytime to send in your questions. And if you start sending them in now, they might even be the first ones being answered on the show tomorrow. So just so you're aware of that. All right, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Always an awesome privilege to have you guys here with me. My name is John Campea, and until next time, guys, bye-bye.